East Report, I'm Amy Goodman. More than 1,200 people have died in northwest Pakistan in the region's worst flooding in decades. 27,000 people are still trapped by rising waters, and about 1 million people have been displaced. The Eddy Foundation, a private relief organization, says the death toll could top 3,000 in the coming days. In Swat, floods have destroyed over 14,000 homes and 22 schools. Rescue efforts have been hampered in part because the flood destroyed dozens of bridges. Pakistani President Asif Ali Zardari is facing intense criticism for his government's slow response to the crisis and his decision not to cancel a planned trip to Europe. In news from Washington, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Mike Mullen, acknowledged Sunday the U.S. military has developed a plan to attack Iran and its nuclear facilities, although he said such a strike is an undesirable option.
The military options have been on the table and remain on the table, and certainly in that regard, it's one of the options that the president has. Again, I hope we don't get to that, but it's an important option, and it's one that's well understood.
The Iraqi government is reporting 535 people were killed in the country last month, making it Iraq's deadliest month since May 2008. The Iraqi government said the dead included 396 civilians, 89 police officers, and 50 soldiers. The U.S. military disputed the numbers, claiming just over 200 people were killed last month. There have been a number of developments in the U.S. government's investigation into the whistleblowing website Wikileaks and the recent leaking of over 90,000 secret military reports about Afghanistan. On Thursday, authorities at Newark Liberty International Airport detained and questioned a 27-year-old Wikileaks volunteer named Jacob Applebaum. He was questioned for 3 hours and had his laptop, computer, and 3 cell phones seized. Applebaum is a U.S. citizen who was arriving in Newark after an international flight. Meanwhile, investigators in the Army's Criminal Division have reportedly questioned 2 students in Boston about their ties to WikiLeaks and Private First Class Bradley Manning, a leading suspect in the leak. Adrian Lamo, the hacker who turned Manning in, says 2 students at MIT have admitted to him they assisted Manning in downloading and distributing the leaked documents. A global treaty banning cluster bombs went into force Sunday. The Convention on Cluster Munitions prohibits the use, production, stockpiling, and transfer of the weapon, which is blamed for maiming and killing tens of thousands of civilians. The United States has shunned the treaty, even though it's the world's largest producer of cluster munitions, with a stockpile of 800 million submunitions. Steve Goose of Human Rights Watch says he hopes support for the convention will help to stigmatize the use of the weapons, even in countries who've not yet signed it.
We're convinced that this convention will have a big impact, even on those states that have not yet joined. There are some big powers out there who've not yet joined up to the convention: the U.S., Russia, and Israel, states that have used the weapon extensively in the past. We think that they're going to feel the power of this new convention. We think that the convention is stigmatizing the weapon all around the world, and that states will be reluctant to ever use it again.
An Israeli airstrike on Gaza City killed a Hamas commander Friday and wounded 11 others. Israel launched the attack on Friday after a rocket was fired from Gaza into the Israeli city of Ashkelon. Former Federal Reserve Chair Alan Greenspan has come out in favor of letting the Bush administration tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans expire. Appearing on Meet the Press, Greenspan said the tax revenue is needed to reduce the federal budget deficit.
I'm very much in favor of tax cuts, but not with borrowed money. And the problem that we've gotten into in recent years is spending programs with borrowed money, tax cuts with borrowed money, and at the end of the day, that proves disastrous. And my view is I don't think we can play subtle policy here.
The United Arab Emirates has announced plans to ban BlackBerry messaging, email, and Internet services because BlackBerry uses a highly encrypted data system that make it more difficult for governments to monitor communications. Saudi Arabia may also institute a similar ban. New York Attorney General Andrew Cuomo has announced plans to investigate whether life insurance companies, including Prudential and MetLife, are defrauding the families of dead American soldiers and Marines out of their full death benefits. A recent investigation by Bloomberg News revealed Prudential earns interest of more than 5.5% on veterans' life insurance policies and pays beneficiaries only 1%. Congressional sources have revealed that Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters of California will face an ethics trial later this year, likely related to allegations she sought to help One United Bank receive federal bailout funds at a time when her husband owned stock in the bank and served on its board. One United Bank is one of the nation's largest minority-owned banks. Democratic Congressman Charles Rangel is also facing an upcoming trial for 13 alleged violations of House ethics rules. Both Waters and Rangel are longtime members of the Congressional Black Caucus. The caucus has long complained that the House ethics process disproportionately targets African Americans in the chamber. The Los Angeles Times reports since its 2009 inception, the Office of Congressional Ethics has investigated at least 8 members of the Black Caucus. An Argentine actor and his agent have become the first gay couple to marry in Buenos Aires after a historic vote made Argentina the first country in South America to allow same-sex marriage. Actor Ernesto Larez and his agent Alejandro Vanelli have been together for 34 years, but jumped at the chance of making their union official. Ernesto Larez spoke to reporters after the marriage ceremony.
The sick are the homophobes, not the homosexuals. The sick are the people with claustrophobia, not the elevators. The sick are the people with xenophobia, not the foreigners. Why would an airplane be at fault for someone's fear of heights? Why would we homosexuals be at fault for the people who suffer from this illness called homophobia? There's a wonderful and simple way of curing these phobias and fears with an antidote called love.
The Committee to Protect Journalists has condemned the murder of a journalist in West Papua. The body of Ariancia Maitreya was found in a river days after he was one of 4 journalists to receive death threats. The killing comes just weeks after thousands of Papuans took to the streets demanding a referendum on West Papuan independence from Indonesia and an internationally mediated dialogue with Jakarta. Here in New York, the controversy over plans to build a mosque and Islamic community center 2 blocks from Ground Zero is intensifying after the Anti-Defamation League came out against the project. In a statement, Abe Foxman, the head of the ADL, said, quote, "Building an Islamic center in the shadow of the World Trade Center will cause some victims more pain." The mothers of 3 American hikers who are being detained in Iran held a protest in Manhattan Friday to mark the 1-year anniversary of the imprisonment of their children. Nora Shord is the mother of Sarah Shord.
The place where we are here today, if people are not aware, is the Iranian mission, which is the closest we can get to speaking to someone in the Iranian government directly, and that's why we're here today. It's been very frustrating for us all along to not be able to talk to someone who's directly responsible for holding our kids. You know, this is as close as we can get, but we're knocking on the door symbolically here, too.
The FBI has revealed it began tracking the late historian Howard Zinn in 1949, well before he became a national figure in the civil rights and anti-war movement. On Friday, the FBI released a 243-page file on Zinn, who died in January at the age of 87. And the legendary Puerto Rican nationalist Lolita Lebron has died at the age of 90. On March 1, 1954, Lebron and 3 other Puerto Rican nationalists entered the U.S. Capitol with automatic pistols and opened fire from an upstairs spectators gallery onto the crowded House floor. They fired nearly 30 shots. No one died in the attack, but 5 congressmen were wounded. During the attack, Lebron shouted, "Viva Puerto Rico Libre." Shortly after her arrest, Lebron defended her actions at the U.S. Capitol.
Did you shoot to kill or to wound? Did you shoot to kill the persons in the Congress?
Not to kill.
What was the purpose of this shooting?
The purpose of the shooting was in the clamor of freedom for my country.
Well, miss, can you tell us whose idea this was?
Not that. It's my idea and our idea, 4 of us idea.
Are you sorry? shot these Congress.
I am not sorry.
What you say, miss?
I'm not sorry to come and ask freedom for my country any place.
After her release from jail, Lolita Lebron continued to protest U.S. control of Puerto Rico. In 2001, at the age of 81, she was arrested protesting the U.S. military's bombing of the Puerto Rican island of Vieques. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. The War